Hi, everybody, and welcome to Committee Corner. I'm Stephanie Hamilton, Government Relations and Advocacy Manager for NSPE, and I'm your host for episode 8. Today, we're going to talk about the House Energy and Commerce Committee and its hearing where it talked about the budget for the Department of Energy. Before we dive in, just a fun fact. The House Energy and Commerce Committee is actually the oldest continuous standing committee in the House of Representatives. It was originally established in 1795, so it's been around for a really long time, which is kind of cool. The House Energy and Commerce Committee has 58 members. There are 32 Democrats and 26 Republicans. Congressman Frank Pallone is the committee chair, and Congresswoman Cathy McMorris Rodgers is the ranking member. According to its webpage, the Energy and Commerce Committee has the broadest jurisdiction of any authorizing committee in Congress. It oversees dozens of policy areas, including healthcare and insurance, safe drinking water, nuclear facilities, cybersecurity, and interstate commerce. It also oversees several federal departments and agencies, including HHS, the FDA, the CDC, the EPA, the Commerce Department, and the Transportation Department. So you can see why this is a committee that we pay attention to, because it has jurisdiction over a lot of areas and a lot of agencies that can impact our members. So it's one of the committees that's at the top of our list. As we mentioned in our episode about appropriations, Congress is in the thick of budget season. So there are a lot of committees holding hearings about agency and department budgets. On May 19th, the Energy and Commerce Subcommittee on Energy held a hearing to discuss the proposed fiscal year 22 budget for the Department of Energy. The only witness was Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm. In her prepared statement, Secretary Granholm detailed some of the asks in President Biden's proposed Energy Department budget, including $1.9 billion for an initiative called Building Clean Energy Projects and Workforce, which includes a challenge grant competition to support state, local, and tribal efforts to deploy clean energy and streamline transmission. $8 billion in clean energy and climate innovation, including investments in nuclear energy, electric vehicles, and green hydrogen. $7.4 billion for the Office of Science to research and better understand the changing climate and identify and develop novel clean energy technologies. It also included an ask for enhanced funding for HBCUs and minority serving institutions. In particular, it asked for increased research funding, and it also asked for increased funding for HBCUs and minority serving institutions STEM programs to create workforce development programs that augment pathways to good paying STEM careers. The DOE budget request also includes money to revitalize the Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management, which aims to advance carbon reduction and mitigation, to support coal and power plant communities via something called the Interagency Working Group on Coal and Power Plant Communities and Economic Revitalization. It's a very long name. So this is a working group that Department of Energy staff are actively involved in. The working group held its first meeting on February 26th of this year, during which agency staff discussed how best to deploy grants, federal loan programs, technical assistance, and other programs that will support and revitalize the economies of coal and power plant communities. And it included the DOE budget request included money for strengthening the U.S. Nuclear through modernization programs, increased funding to the Naval Nuclear Propulsion Program, and the department's Nuclear Facility Cleanup Fund. At the beginning of her testimony, Secretary Granholm, first, she took a few minutes to talk about the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack that happened a couple weeks ago, and resulted in gas shortages and gas spikes, especially along the East Coast. She talked about her department's role in aiding the company as it worked to get its supply routes back online. She also highlighted the critical need for enhanced cybersecurity for the nation's infrastructure and asked Congress to support agency efforts to do that. During the Q&A period, it was actually really encouraging to hear. There were several members from both parties um, who shared her concern about cybersecurity, and especially as it relates to infrastructure. And they expressed interest in working with the Department of Energy to improve energy sector vulnerabilities. The discussion on the Energy Department budget covered several additional topics, including the need to streamline the environmental impact process, potential risks to vulnerable communities of pushing clean energy development too quickly, also the potential risk to vulnerable communities resulting from extreme climate events, and the use of technology for reducing the nation's carbon footprint and for improving clean energy connectivity. So there was an interesting back and forth debate and discussion in the Q&A period, where both Secretary Granholm and members of the subcommittee really wrestled with how fast is too fast in the development of clean energy. They acknowledged that vulnerable communities already are harmed by extreme climate events. At the same time, there was recognition that developing clean energy too fast can leave these communities behind, and cause even greater harm. Um, so there was acknowledgement that there needs to be not only continued discussion and education, but that there also need to be some concrete decisions made about how quickly to move and how to make sure that vulnerable communities don't get left behind. The full subcommittee hearing was 4 hours long. So this is a very high level summary of the discussion. Also, because this was a hearing and not a markup, there weren't any final decisions made regarding the Energy Department's budget. As more hearings are held and the final numbers begin to take shape, the NSPE government relations team will definitely be watching. As I said before, we know the Department of Energy's budget has the potential to directly impact projects that our members could be working on or are already working on. So, as I said, this committee and this department are at the top of our list of priorities. So that's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in again, and I hope you will tune in next week for another episode. Thanks so much.